This is a data overview for Lakeview Middle School for the 2011-2012 school years up until the 2013-2014 school years. This presentation was initially given on November 23, 2014 to the Lakeview Middle School administration. The purpose of this presentation is we're going to look at several different pieces of data. The first thing we're going to look at is the demographical changes that have taken place at Lakeview Middle School over the past 3 years. We're also going to look at the student achievement data on the language arts and reading portions of the Criterion Reference Competency Test, or the CRCT as we know it. Keep in mind when we look at this data, the CRCT is generally given toward the end of April or early May. And once we look at this data, we're also going to analyze it so that we can see strengths as well as weaknesses in language arts and reading, and hopefully find some areas of improvement that are most needed. The first table that you're going to see here is the demographic information. A couple of things I want to point out to you. You'll notice in the far left-hand column it is broken up into the school terms. So at the bottom you're going to see the 2011-2012 school year, and toward the top you will see the 2013-2014 school year. It is then broken up into different race and ethnicities as well as gender towards the end. A couple of things that you will see from the demographics are some changes in our enrollment. In year one, it started out at 753 students, and then in year three, it dropped down to 701 students. So we're seeing a decline in our enrollment. Also, the white student population is getting smaller, while the African American, Latino, and multiracial populations are in fact growing. One question that we might want to look at is, are we meeting the needs of these changing demographics? Later on in this presentation, we're actually going to look at some disaggregated data, which could give us a better answer to this question. The next table that you're going to see there is our free and reduced lunch population. You'll see over in the left-hand column, this is broken up into the 3 different school years, and in the right column you will see the percentage of our student population that receives free or reduced lunch. One thing that you're going to notice is we do have a growing population of students coming from low-income families. Next, you're going to see our attendance rate. Here again, in the left you've got the school years, and in the right-hand column you've got the percentages. You'll notice that our attendance rate in the 2013-2014 school year was the lowest it has been in 2 years. Next, you're going to see the data pyramid. The data pyramid is broken up into 5 different sections. For the purpose of this presentation, we're going to look primarily at the first 2 pieces of data, and we're going to start by looking at aggregated data. Now, the first part of aggregated data that we're going to look at is the language arts portion of the CRCT test. And we're going to look primarily at students that were proficient or higher on this portion of the test. In the left-hand column of this table, you're going to notice it's broken up by our school, our district, which is Catoosa County, and then the state. And this, of course, is broken up into 3 years. Let's look at this data visually. A couple of things I want to point out to you. Over on the y-axis, you do have the percentage of students that met or exceeded the CRCT in English Language Arts. And one thing I want to point out to you, the numbers here are starting at 92%. So even if you see on this line graph some of the lines going down, keep in mind that this is a 92% or higher that are meeting or exceeding proficiency. So even though it looks like it's going down, that number is still pretty high. Let's analyze the language arts aggregated data. A couple of things that you will see from that data is the percentage of students at or above proficient on the CRCT language arts test decreased from year 1 to year 2, but came back up to 93% in year 3. Our scores have been 1 percentage lower from the other middle schools in the district, and we had the same percentage of proficient students in year 3 as the state did. One thing that stood out to me that I'd like to highlight is that our scores have been 1 percentage lower from other middle schools in the district. So it could lead us to the question, what are some of the initiatives that they're doing in other middle schools in our district, and should we consider implementing those in our language arts curriculum? Next, we're going to look at the aggregated data for reading. Here again, this is broken up into our school, the district, and the state level for the past 3 years. Let's look at this visually. Here again, in the y-axis, you've got the percentage of students that met or exceeded the reading portion of the CRCT. Keep in mind that this is 92% or higher. So if those lines are going down a little bit, keep in mind this is still 92% or higher. Some observations from the reading aggregated data that you could see are the percentages of students at or above proficient on the CRCT reading test has decreased over the past 3 years. Our scores have often been 1 percentage off from the other middle schools in the district, and we have consistently had higher percentages of students meeting or exceeding the reading portion of the CRCT in comparison to other middle schools in the state. So I would consider that definitely a strength. That lets us know that we are doing something right here at Lakeview Middle School when it comes to reading. However, we will also notice a weakness here. We will see that our scores in reading have been decreasing over the past 3 years. Why is that? We need to look at this to see what are we doing to meet the needs of our reading. Next on the data pyramid, we're going to look at disaggregated data. And we're going to start by looking at the language arts portion of the 2013-2014 CRCT, but this time we're going to look at it disaggregated by race and ethnicity. And over in the left-hand column, you'll see we're looking primarily at the white, African American, and Latino populations, and we do have it broken up by grade level as well. Let's look at this data visually. Here again, you will notice the legend over to the right. The yellow is representing our white student population, the green represents our African American population, and the blue represents our Latino population. One thing I'm sure that your eye is quickly drawn to is the 8th grade. There, you're going to notice there that 100% of all of those demographics are proficient or higher on the language arts portion of the CRCT. So 8th grade teachers are definitely doing something right. Next, we're going to look at the reading portion of the 2013-2014 CRCT. Here again, we're going to look at it disaggregated by race and ethnicity. One thing that I'm sure that your eye quickly is drawn to is this 7th grade African American percentage score, 83%. So out of both the language arts and the reading disaggregated data that we've looked at, this is by far the lowest score. So that leads us to this question: are we meeting the needs of the 7th grade African American students in reading? Here's this disaggregated data visually. You can see here the reading portion of the CRCT for 2013-2014 school year, and the legend here again is the same as what we looked at with language arts. There again, 8th grade teachers, they're definitely doing something right because we definitely have 100% of all of those 3 ethnicities that we're looking for that were proficient or higher on this portion of the test. Now let's look at our CCRPI, or the College and Career Readiness Indicator. Of course, this overall score is given based on 3 areas: the achievement score, the progress score, and the achievement gap closure score. You're going to notice on this table we are comparing the 2012 and 2013 years with our school, Catoosa County School District, and the state. When we look at this visually, you're going to see in yellow it's representing the 2012 school year, and the green is representing the 2013 school year. You will notice that our school for both years was higher than our district, but lower than the state. So this could be an area of improvement for our school as well. Here I've got it broken up for you on the 3 different areas: the achievement points, the progress points, and the achievement gap points. And you'll notice that there was a small decline in each of those 3 sections. Some strengths that I want to look at from the data. We've consistently had higher percentages of students meeting or exceeding the reading portion of the CRCT in comparison to other middle schools in the state. 90% or higher of our students met or exceeded proficiency in language arts and reading for the past 3 years. So we're definitely on the right track, but there's still some room for improvement. And like I pointed out, 100% of the white, African American, and Latino 8th grade students met or exceeded proficiency on the 2013-2014 CRCT reading portion of the test. Now, some weaknesses and areas of improvement. I'm going to highlight 3 different weaknesses or areas of improvement. The first one being our attendance rate. For the last 2 years was the lowest that it has been. So we might want to consider a school-wide attendance incentive initiative that we might want to implement here. The second thing we're going to look at is why have our reading scores slowly been decreasing over the past 3 years. Perhaps we should look at the current reading initiatives and consider revising some of those current teaching practices. And finally, one of the areas of improvement or a weakness of ours is only 83% of our African American 7th grade student population were proficient or higher on the reading portion of the CRCT for the 2013-2014 school year. Question here is, what can we do to better meet the needs of the African American population in 7th grade reading? These 3 highlighted areas are the 3 focal points that we're going to focus on for the task. Our task here is we're going to look at those 3 questions, and we're going to write some ideas that we have to improve the attendance rate as well as the reading scores, and particularly the reading scores for 7th grade African American students. Please put only 1 idea per post-it. Once we're finished writing those down, we're going to put all of those post-its onto a chart, and we're going to see if we came up with any of the same ideas. Once we've created a list of those ideas, we will meet with our leadership team here in the near future so that we can discuss some ways to improve the targeted areas of reading and attendance. Thank you so much for your time, and hopefully we will be meeting up to further discuss these improvements soon.